Hey, peace and blessings, everyone. Happy hump day. Happy hump day. Today is Wednesday. And I am back again to provide clarity on consumer law. So, my name is Tamara T. Bush, and during the month of March, I am hopping on Facebook Live, also uploading these videos to YouTube to provide clarity on consumer law as I understand it, so that you can take and use this information to your benefit. So definitely share out this broadcast to any person that you believe will benefit from this information. I'm hoping to, be able to reach as many people as possible, because this is a very delicate subject that we need to address, because we are not being taught this information. We are out in the world, and our children are literally going to be going out in the world misinformed, uninformed, regarding what their rights are as a consumer, right? So because this issue literally affects us every single day at our front door, I felt it necessary to go ahead and shed some light on the situation. So I need for you all to put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Let me check. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you can hear me. I think I just unmuted. So I can definitely hear myself speaking. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I'm not on video today. I'm getting ready to go out of town, so I'm trying to wrap some things up around the house and get, tie up some loose ends in terms of personal business before I leave. Put your city and state in the comment section, because I definitely would like to know where you are tuning in from, so that we can facilitate some group studies in your area, so that you can also join in on the discussion. So let me go ahead and get set up and make sure that I share this live out to the appropriate areas. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So we're gonna talk a little bit about regulation today. We're going to talk a little bit about regulation, because I want you all to familiarize yourself with those governing bodies that's going to help you get your remedy. It's very important that we know who regulates who in the whole grand scheme of things, because like I was saying yesterday, you have to know who to go and tell. Everybody has a boss, right? So the question is always going to be, who is the boss of the company or a bank or financial institution that you are going up against, who is going to help you enforce your consumer rights, right? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, put a 2 in the chat if you can see my screen. Put a 2 in the chat, and I'm pulling up the chats now. So I'm gonna make sure that you all can definitely see my screen. I don't want to have any more technical difficulties, because I need you all to get this information, right? So put a 2 in the chat if you can see my screen. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. Okay, perfect. All right, so we spoke a lot about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. We spoke about the FDCPA. We spoke about truth in lending, but when it all boils down to it, when you begin to go after your remedy, it is all going to be in the enforcement of those remedies. Yes, you can send out a ton of letters, but it's going to be how the company responds, how the bank responds to the documentation that you are sending in. And so if you are not getting the desired results from the companies that you're trying to submit your complaints to, your disputes, then you have to know when to take the next step in the administrative process. And one of those steps is going to be to submit complaints with those governing bodies that oversee or regulate these companies, right? So the Fair Credit Reporting Act, we know that we have TransUnion, we have Experian, and we have Equifax, right? Now, there are hundreds of consumer reporting agencies, literally. When I tell you there's hundreds, there's literally hundreds. But the reason why we always talk about those 3 is because they're the most popular, right? There are literally hundreds of consumer reporting agencies out there. So whatever process you are doing with the big three, I like to call them the big three: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You can virtually do the same process with all of the consumer reporting agencies out there. If you want to take on that challenge, if you have the time, go for it, because they're held to the same regulation as these other agencies, right? They're all corporations and LLCs that are held to the, they're held to the same standard. So what I would like to see is for us to begin to become familiar with the websites that are there to help us. Now, almost every website that I'm going to go to today has one common element. So I want to see if later on in this video, if you are able to identify the common element that appears across all of these websites, right? Okay, so the one that you see on my screen right now is the CFPB. And the CFPB stands for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So remember when I first started doing these videos, one of the first things that I went over was the definitions of the FCRA. And I specifically stated that bureau means federal, but we keep calling Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian bureaus. And I stated that there is nothing federal about them. These are just regular companies, just regular companies, right? There's nothing federal. They're not backed by Congress. They're not backed by the government. They have assumed a vital role in collecting information on you that companies use to determine your eligibility for credit, right? So anytime that you see the word bureau, we need to automatically thinking the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. There is literally only two bureaus. So the reason why I brought that up is because sometimes we're caught up in like the old way of thinking. And if we begin to consistently practice the correction of the language, then that's going to help us begin to better understand what we're dealing with, right? Because definitions are important in consumer law. Definitions are important, right? So when you go to the CFPB website, there's a lot of resources on this website, and I absolutely love it because they actually provide a lot of good information for consumers, right? They have a section on here that's called consumer education. In your free time, in the midst of studying Title 15, this is going to be another resource that you're going to want to study, is the CFPB, literally, right? You can go in and you can look at the consumer complaint database, so you can see a trend for the types of complaints that are being submitted, right? There's a consumer education section of the website, right? This is all consumer education. So this was put here for you. This was put here for you, right? Now notice they're referring to you as a consumer, okay? They're not referring to you as anything else but a consumer, and that is important in understanding exactly who you are. It's important, right? So we have to know that we need to be able to properly identify who we are in these transactions. Even when you go and you begin to read US Code Title 15, you're going to see that term consumer used over and over and over and over again, right? So I definitely recommend going to this website, looking at the website, reading the information on the website, going through some of these tabs and just really becoming familiar. Now, the CFPB, like I said, they regulate all of the consumer reporting agencies. They do oversee some of the complaints that come through for financial institutions, but a lot of the times what they do is they are simply acting as an intermediary to pass along your complaint to the company, and then they receive the response from the company and then they pass it along to you. But certain complaints that you submit as a consumer, they will step in and enforce, but it just has to be specifically related to what they enforce, right? Right. So payments to harm consumers. Now, this section right here is exactly what it is. It's basically a database that they maintain that is going to tell you all of the settlements, not all, but some of the settlements that has happened on some of these cases that have been enforced by the CFPB. Now, keep in mind that when you begin to go after your remedy, a lot of these companies will settle out of court. So because they try to hide it, right? They don't want anything really on public record to reflect that they are wrong. And when I say they, I'm talking about these companies that know that they're violating you every day, right? So a lot of those court cases are not going to appear in this section because they keep it private. They suppress the docket. They make sure the information is not released, right? Because they don't want the public to know, oh yeah, we paid out $50,000 to a consumer that was violated by Discover Card. Like, they will never tell you that, right? They will never tell you that. But this is still a good resource for you to be able to go and look at some of these, you know, these cases. This is good information. Right now, typically, a lot of people file a complaint with the CFPB when they submit a dispute with the consumer reporting agencies. And you submit your dispute. They give the company so much time to respond. But again, those responses have to come in accordance with what the law states, right? So if the law states that they only have 30 days, they literally only get 30 days, although the CFPB states that they get up to 60 days. But if you did not specifically provide that company permission to use more time to investigate, then you go with the original enforcement of the law, which is 30 days. It doesn't matter what the CFPB gives them. You continue to go after your remedy, right? Okay, so this is the first website. Now, the second website is identitytheft.gov. This is the FTC website. This is where people go to submit complaints of identity theft. So you're definitely going to want to jot this down. Now, if you think about what I spoke about earlier on when I began to do these videos a few weeks ago, I spoke about the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act and the fact that you have a right to privacy as a consumer. Now, because you have a right to privacy as a consumer, that means that they have to get your explicit written permission to report anything on your consumer report. And you were supposed to receive a set of disclosures that specifically outline your rights to opt out from consumer reporting. So as I went through that particular discussion, I explained that no consent equals identity theft, because it is. You didn't give anyone permission to report your information. You didn't give anyone permission to report to a non-affiliated third party, right? And then they did not properly disclose to you your rights to opt out. So they withheld information from you, which in turn is fraud, right? So this is going to be a good resource for you, because when you go to, submit complaints to the consumer reporting agencies of items that you're looking to get removed from your consumer report, the FCRA specifically states that if you're doing the 4-day block and remove method, that you have to submit a copy of an FTC identity theft report. So that's what this is, right? So you would come here, you would fill out this information. The one thing that I love about the FTC is that you can actually create multiple reports in a single day, right? Because you can go in here, you can create the report, and if you have multiple accounts that you're trying to get removed, you just go back and edit the report and print out another one. And then if it's still not enough, you go back in and edit it again, and you print out another one. And every new report that you print out is going to be stamped with that information, right? So you just go ahead and fax it in, make sure all of your items are on there, and yeah, you're good to go. And the consumer reporting agency will be able to, along with your identification, if you submit it with your identification, they will be able to go in and get those items removed within 4 days. Okay, so definitely take note of identitytheft.gov. Use it as a resource. Anytime that something is reported that you're trying to get removed, you did not give them permission to report, it is identity theft. I don't care how you swing it. You didn't give them permission. They created this profile that is supposed to represent you, but you did not give them permission to do that. So that in essence is identity theft. All right, now the Office of the Comptroller of Currency is another regulatory body that regulates banks and financial institutions. Now, when you are, and we haven't gone through this lesson yet, we haven't gone through this lesson yet, but we will. But I still wanted to give you the resource because there's certain things that you can do with your monthly bills that if the bank does not comply, you can complain to the OCC to get the banks to do what they're supposed to do. I can't get into it right now, but just know that this is going to be a resource that you are going to need in the future as I begin to speak specifically about endorsements and remittance slips. This is something that you are going to need to become familiar with as well. Very important to go onto this website, learn your way around, become familiar with the complaint process. You can call all of these companies, you can call them and ask questions, right? They will help you. People are really there to help you. So definitely, definitely, definitely list this in your Rolodex of companies that you're going to need at some point, because trust and believe you are going to need them. All right, so this particular website, we went over this website the other day. Wait, hold on, let me go back for a second. Look at something. Okay. All right. So this website right here is the Federal Communications Commission's website. And I actually went over this. I think I pulled this website up on my previous video yesterday when we were speaking about utilities, right? So you see they have a for consumers section on here, right? And so they have a consumer complaint section. And so what did we say yesterday? We said that utilities is something that is only supposed to be paid by corporations. They're not supposed to be paid by you as a private person. And so that's where the enforcement comes in, right? So, you file your complaints and they will do what it is that they are supposed to do. They have a consumer complaint center, right? This is a resource for you. Go in here and become familiar with these websites. When have you ever known anyone to have to submit a complaint about a utility company? Like, I've heard stories about DirecTV, how people have these DirecTV packages, right? But for some reason, I don't know why, the service is horrible, and the service is always going out, it's always choppy, it's lagging, and if you're just sitting up there trying to watch a game, you know, if you're trying to watch a game and the service, you're paying for a service that is supposed to give you what you want, then why aren't you complaining to this company about the services? This DirecTV is a communications company. They're communicating with you through a medium. A medium is the TV, so they are considered communications, right? Right? Put a 4 in the chat if you're following. I know I'm talking really fast. I tend to talk really fast in these videos, but I figured that you can go back and you can rewind, you can watch it over and over, to get the context of what it is that I'm saying. Right? Just trying to give you context. Definitely trying to give you context. All right, now there's another resource that I would like to show you. This resource right here is basically going to allow you to look up any financial institution so that you can determine who they're regulated by, because it may be the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, or it may be the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, right? So we definitely need to know who's regulated by whom. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this resource up for you guys now so that you can see exactly where to go and look up who the boss is of the company that you're trying to go after. So let me get that pulled up for you. Hold on one second. So while I'm pulling this information up, how has your day been going so far? It's hump day. I know we're at the middle of the week. We're getting ready for the weekend in like 2 days, right? We are almost at the end of the first quarter of 2022. This year is already going by super, super fast. It's crazy how time is like sped up. I don't, I don't even know like what that's all about, right? Time is definitely sped up. These days are flying by like crazy. It's completely insane. It is completely insane how fast the time is flying. And so when time is going fast like this, that basically tells me that I need to get to work. I don't have time, to be waiting around and doing stuff. And, when it comes to doing your administrative process or even submitting a dispute, even if you're not at the at the stage of doing the full administrative process, I don't have time to be waiting around, 30 to 60 days for people to complain or respond to my complaints. So I'm giving you these resources because at some point you may actually have to hop on the phone and call these people. You may have to hop on the phone and call Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax to get them to do, what they're supposed to do. Because like I said before, these people are not just going to lay over and say, oops, I'm sorry, I violated you. Let me pay you. Like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Okay, so here's the website right here. Here is the website right. All right, so this is the Federal Financial Institution Examination Council, the FFIEC, right? So you see this little box down here. You see that little box? You can literally come down here and type in, can't type today. You can type in discover, and it's going to tell you, oh, the regulator is the FDIC. So give me a name of the bank. Put the name of the bank in the chat and let's look it up and see who they are regulated by. Let's look and see who they're regulated by. So yeah, the FDIC, what's the first thing you see when it pops up? Consumer Resource Center. Now, I said, are you going to be able to identify one of the common things that you see on some of these websites? They keep calling you a consumer, right? Consumer, that word keeps popping up. It keeps popping up over and over and over again, right? It keeps popping up for consumers. Consumer, there that word is again. There it is. It's right there in plain sight. So this is the FDIC. The FDIC is another regulatory body for financial institutions. When we think of the FDIC, we're just thinking, oh, they cover our bank accounts up to $250,000, but it's a lot more than that. Trust me, it is. It is definitely a lot more than that, right? Oh, and they're definitely behind because it says that they were last updated in December of 2021. So I need them to get on top of this, right? They need to go ahead and update their website, right? They need to update their website. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so let's put in, let's see, for all of you Buffalonians, let's put in KeyBank. KeyBank even still like an active bank. Let's try M&T Bank. Who are they regulated by? Are they even in here? I don't even think they're in here. Or is it A&D? Come on, y'all, help me out. Is it M&T Bank? Okay, let's try PNC. Okay, PNC Bank International. So it depends on what entity that you're speaking of or that you're dealing with, right? Because some financial institutions have different subsidiaries that provide different services. They may have the retail banking side, they may have the credit card services side, they may have the mortgage lending side, may have the retail lending side. You have to be very specific on who you're going after, because if you look at this one, this is giving you a variation of the same bank, right? And so typically, in order for you to know who you're dealing with, you just look on your statement. The statement is specifically going to tell you what area of the bank you're doing business with. And as you can see, the NA Bank, the National Association, is regulated by the OCC. But PNC Bank International and PNC Capital Leasing is regulated by the Federal Reserve, right? Ooh, what's that? There's that word again, consumer. The Federal Reserve Consumer Help, Consumer Alert. They are speaking to you through these websites. I'm telling you, they're basically telling you who you are. If you don't know that you're a consumer by now, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't know that you are a consumer by now, then I don't know what to tell you, right? They're calling out to you. Come on. Consumers and businesses are targeted by fraud and scams daily. Is this not whole system fraud? Listen, we went through that before. You all know it's fraud, right? And so they give you the resources to go ahead and file your complaints, right? Come on, there is resources out here to help us. But the problem is that we keep taking advantage of because we are not holding these companies accountable, and we have not held these companies accountable probably for centuries. Well, at least 100 years, because we're in 2022, right? Yeah, we have to begin to hold these companies accountable. Part of the issue is that we lack the time to be able to address these issues because, you know, our days are so inundated with work and, you know, taking care of our families that we simply do not have the time. Working a 9-to-5 job, you get home, you're completely exhausted. So I get it. I definitely get it. I get it. You know, and I want to see us maybe try to designate 1 or 2 days out of the week where we can at least study at least 1 to 2 hours a day. I know it sounds good, but I guess for me, how I started learning is I had to be intentional on how I used my time every single day. And I literally did not have time to waste. I still don't have time to waste. We have to make the time because we literally make time for what we want. So if that means that we have to turn off the TV for an hour to 2 hours a day to learn this stuff, then that's exactly what we have to do, because all of that stuff is a distraction anyway from you getting to the truth of the matter. It is literally all a distraction. They want you to binge watch, you know, these new TV series and stuff that comes out because it's eating up your time. You don't have time to go and do what you're supposed to do to give your life, your family a better life, right? So the Federal Reserve, and like I said, it's not just about protecting the bank accounts up to 250K. If you look at all of this stuff, they're talking about prepaid cards, credit reports, deposit accounts, and deposit insurance. That's just one small piece of the FDIC, right? Electronic, mobile, and online banking, foreclosure, bankruptcy. Look at this: identity theft, loans, and leasing. How to file a consumer complaint about a bank. Boom. Order a brochure. Come on. Well, they need to update the website, but you all get what I'm trying to say. You all get what I'm trying to say. But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to take the time out to provide you with some resources because it all sounds good. Like, hey, we can go ahead and submit these complaints, but it is literally all in the enforcement, right? We have got to begin to submit the proper complaints to the regulatory agencies and these bodies that are regulating these companies and these banks in order to put some fire underneath their feet so that they will do right by us as a consumer. And it is definitely going to take some work. So my name again is Tamara T. Bush. I'm going to go ahead and close out. I hope this information was beneficial to you today. Definitely leave your feedback and your comments or your feedback in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your experiences have been. If you've been able to use any of the information that I've given you so far in our consumer law clarity journey. All right. Peace and blessings, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close out, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace and blessings. Have a blessed evening.